Hello and welcome to Ask Amanda Now. This is our short Friday afternoon session where I can answer one Strata question for you. Today's a little bit special, as you might be able to see from my surroundings. I'm not in my home studio. I'm not traveling around to various parts of Europe. I'm actually sitting in an office in Sydney. I am here at the offices of Minter Ellison lawyers. I have been here for most of the day taking part in a strategic planning session with the Council of the Australian College of Strata lawyers. We've been very lucky to be here in this beautiful office. I might give you a little look at the gorgeous view that we have enjoyed today in just a little bit. We have had our heads down planning the next few years for the future of the Australian College of Strata Lawyers. We get together once a year or so to check in on our strategic plan, and I posted a little vid showing you my fellow council members and a bit of a summary of what we're focused on. It's here on the page if you haven't seen that one. But we have finished up a little earlier than I planned, which was excellent, so that I could pop in here and deliver your Ask Amanda Now session. Now I can see lots of eyeballs there coming in live. It's great to have you here with me. Shana is here saying happy Friday. Hey Shana, how are you? If you are here live and you want to drop me a hello, please do go ahead. If you're catching the replay, give me a hello as well. We have had a huge week in Strata, especially here in New South Wales. The appointment of our Strata Commissioner was announced earlier this week. Our Property Services Commissioner, John Minns, has been elevated into the role as Strata Commissioner. So lots of congratulations flying around, lots of posts on socials, on Facebook, on LinkedIn. I'm seeing New South Wales Strata managers, owners really pleased about the appointment of John Minns into that Strata Commissioner role. I did reach out to John personally. We've had a few chats over his term as Property Services Commissioner, and I'm working with his team, fingers crossed, that we will have John available to chat with us on the podcast very soon. So we're looking at locking that one in. We had at the beginning of the week an announcement that a bill would be going before New South Wales Parliament this week, looking at some reforms to our New South Wales legislation, long-awaited reforms to our legislation. And just earlier today, I checked in on the Parliament website and I can see that that bill has been tabled. We do have a copy of it now. There is a speech that is there and available to read, which is summarising the impact of the bill. So I'm going to have a closer look at that for you probably over the weekend and post a summary here for you, letting you know what it is that we should be expecting to change in our New South Wales Strata legislation. So lots has definitely been going on. I'm heading over to these comments saying hello, those who are saying hello here. I think it's one of the Seans coming in under a different page. No worries. Hey, Sean, good to have you here. Angela is here saying hi. Hey, Angela. Hey, Margaret, how are you? Nice to see you. So I've just said, I'm not in my usual spot here. I am in Sydney CBD at the offices of Minter Ellison, who very generously hosted the Council of the Australian College of Strata Lawyers here today for our one-day planning session. And this is what we've been treated to. We have all of this glass here. I'll try and get my head out of the way, and a bit of a view of the harbour over here. You might have seen this in my video earlier. I'm going to try not to fall over. Oh, I don't know if you'll be able to see all that way around. We've got the Opera House there. No, not quite getting it. But yes, empty room here now because my fellow council members have headed off for the day and left the room here to me to deliver your Ask Amanda Now session. One Strata question has been asked. Well, more than one question was certainly asked, but one Strata question has been chosen to be answered for you here today. We're going to get to that in just a sec. I'm just coming back around to check those hellos. Hey, Diane, who is here. Louise is saying, hi, Amanda, looking forward to your words of wisdom. All right, well, I've got some to deliver for you today, Louise. Great question that has come through. I choose questions that I think will help the most number of people, questions that are reasonably general in nature. I get lots of very detailed questions in my inbox, letting me know all about the history of what you've been going through and asking a very specific question that might be unique to your community. That's generally not the questions that I choose for our Ask Amanda Now sessions. The question that I have chosen today comes from Stephen. The team is going to pop that one up here for us. Stephen is asking, are non-owners who don't hold proxies allowed to attend general meetings? Great question. Get asked this one a lot. It is something that I have to be particularly mindful of as an owner advocate, someone who is engaged by owners to often attend general meetings for them. I have to think about this and think, well, I'm a lawyer, I'm not an owner in the community, I'm not someone who is otherwise entitled to vote. Am I able to attend this meeting? Or if I turn up to the meeting as a lawyer saying I'm here at the request of an owner, am I going to be kicked out? Does the chair have a right to kick me out? So that's something that I have certainly thought hard about and looked at the New South Wales legislation in relation to many times in the past. So I do have an answer for Stephen. And whether you are a committee member, a chair, a strata manager, a lawyer yourself, somebody who wants to or needs to attend a general meeting on behalf of an owner, this is going to be an important question, an important answer for you to be across. I am seeing, I think one of the Sean's here saying, with the agreement of those eligible to attend, Sean thinks that yes, someone who is a non-owner, who is not holding a proxy, can be allowed to attend a general meeting. All right, so the place where I start with the answer to this question, and we could probably put that banner away for the minute. Thanks, Mina. We might pop it up again later. Just wait for my cue. The place where I start with the answer to this question is, who gets notice? Who gets notice of general meetings? Our New South Wales legislation tells us that every owner must receive notice of a general meeting. Every owner is entitled to attend a general meeting. There's also somebody else who may receive notice of general meetings, and that is mortgagees. So a bank that has a mortgage over a lot may also receive notice of an AGM, and that's if, I won't get into the detail of that part of the legislation, but in short, if a particular motion is on the agenda, a motion for special levies, a motion that requires a unanimous resolution, Schedule 1 in our Strata Schemes Management Act tells us that mortgagees must also receive notices of general meetings. So we've got to send notices to owners. We've got to send notices quite often, probably more often than we realise. We should be sending notices to mortgagees. We're not sending notices of meetings to anyone else, okay? So I see that notice of meeting essentially as your invitation. That's your invitation to attend the meeting, and if you ain't getting an invitation, then you really shouldn't be turning up. Now, an owner can vote at a meeting in person, the legislation tells us, or by proxy. So if an owner is appointing a proxy, then that proxy is eligible to attend the meeting and to vote at the meeting. That proxy holder just has to be a person. The proxy holder doesn't have to be an owner. The proxy holder doesn't have to be a partner of the owner, doesn't have to be a committee member, doesn't have to be the strata manager. You can appoint any person to be your proxy holder at a general meeting. So I, as a lawyer, am often appointed as a proxy holder to attend general meetings. If I'm holding a proxy, even though I'm not an owner, I am still eligible to vote. And in order to vote, I've got to be there. I've got to be there at the meeting. Now, I've said owners can attend meetings and vote, mortgagees can attend meetings and vote, proxy holders can attend meetings and vote. In my view, that is it. That is it. We can also have, I've said that is it, there is one more. We can also have in certain communities tenants attending general meetings. And one of the strata managers will tell me if I'm wrong, but my understanding is that we're more than 50% of those listed on the strata roll are tenants. We have more than 50% of the lots in the building are tenanted according to the strata role, then we should also be inviting tenants to our meetings. They can't vote, but they are entitled to attend the meetings and to elect a tenant representative for the strata committee. So other than that, non-owners, unless they're a proxy holder, unless they're a mortgagee, should not be voting at meetings, and in my view, therefore, should not be attending. Now, one of the Sean's here commented that, well, if everybody agrees to that person attending, there shouldn't be a problem. I agree with that. And with a chairperson who may not want to make the call on whether or not this person should remain in the meeting, the chairperson might not want to unilaterally make that call. The chairperson might put it out to others attending at the meeting and say, hey, what do you think? Let's take a vote on whether this person should stay in attendance or not. My understanding from the detail of the question that I got from Stephen in my inbox was that this was an online meeting, and the person who was not an owner, not a proxy holder, was attending in the expectation that they would be nominated to be elected to the committee, and they were there so that they could merely accept that verbal nomination and then be elected to the committee. And the chair in this situation, Stephen was relaying, said, no, you can't be here. We're in a Zoom meeting. I'm not going to allow you to be in the Zoom meeting. I'm going to kick you off because you're not an owner, you're not a proxy holder. I hear that you want to be nominated for the committee, but you cannot actually be here in the meeting to accept your nomination. So you can see how that kind of situation had a fairly serious consequence. Someone who wanted to be on the committee couldn't be there because they weren't otherwise eligible to sit in the meeting and accept their nomination. That's the kind of situation you do have to think ahead. And if you want your lawyer to attend, you want your friend to attend, you want somebody who is a non-owner, but you want to nominate for the committee, you want that person in the meeting, then they really should be holding a proxy. Because if they're holding a proxy, then they legally can't be removed from the meeting. Now, so much depends on the location of the meeting. I say if you're in a public place, if you're having your meeting at the pub, if you're having your meeting in a park, it's not in somebody's unit, or it's not in a boardroom, it's not at your strata manager's office, it's not on private property, it's very hard physically to exclude somebody from attending a meeting. But when we're online on Zoom, we're sitting in a meeting where with the push of a button somebody can be excluded. If we're on private property where somebody is not otherwise entitled to be, so they're not an owner or a resident in the building, and you're having your meeting in the foyer, then yeah, that person can be told that they don't have permission to be there on that premises at that time and can be removed from the meeting. Scrolling back to these comments, and we might just pop that banner back up. Thank you, Mina. So a reminder for all of those who are joining us live, what we are talking about here today. Maybe best to have a proxy. Yep, definitely. Diane saying, I had an owner who wanted to send their selling real estate agent, one who wanted to change things to benefit the owner. Funny that you say that, Diane. That's often my brief that I have as a strata lawyer when I'm attending general meetings for owners. I'm there to act in their best interest in accordance with their instructions, but I'm holding a proxy. I always make sure that I'm holding a proxy so I cannot be excluded from that meeting room. Now, think about this. If I'm holding the proxy for the owner, can that owner still come along to the meeting when they've appointed me their proxy? I say yes. I say yes because they're an owner. They've got that notice of meeting. And remember earlier, I called that's your invitation to the meeting. You've got your notice of meeting. You're an owner. You are entitled to attend the meeting. If you've appointed a proxy, I'm there as your proxy holder. I'm the one voting. You certainly shouldn't be voting unless you want to take over the voting capacity and leave me out of it, but then query whether I should then leave the meeting. You're sitting there and should sit quietly while your proxy holder addresses the meeting and votes and does all of those things that a proxy holder can do in your stead. So can't have it both ways. But if you've appointed a proxy holder and you're an owner, then I say you can still attend the meeting, though the voting task is left to your proxy holder. It's something that I regularly do for clients. Committee members who may not be owners get notices of all meetings. Yes, they do get notices of meetings, don't they? Are they entitled to attend meetings? Wow, I like that one. I like that one. Which Sean are you? I'm not even going to try to pronounce the name that you're coming in under. Which Sean are you? That's a very good point. I'm going to come back to that one. Probably not today. I'm going to have to look that one up. But if committee members are getting notices of meetings and they're non-owner committee members, are they eligible to attend the meetings? I like it. Sean Birmingham, nice to see you, is saying if of the 50% trigger is reached, the tenants need to be invited to a tenant meeting to elect a tenant rep, and then they're allowed. They're not otherwise allowed. They're not otherwise receiving notices of meetings and entitled to attend the general meeting, Sean. I know they can elect a tenant representative. My understanding was that they could also attend the general meeting but not vote at the general meeting. They could listen in. Maureen saying, I don't think non-owners should be able to be on the Strata committee even if they are a proxy for the meeting, particularly if they don't even live on site. Yeah, it's an interesting one, Maureen, and it's often where you see, the professional coming in as the committee member, whether it's a lawyer or a real estate agent, somebody is wanting a professional to represent their interests at committee level. Look, I've seen it work effectively. I have seen it work effectively. It really comes down to that particular personality. And I've also seen situations where it sounds like you might have experienced this person is not interested in what is good for the community and is only there to represent their own interests or the interests of that person who they're being paid to represent. And that can be a tricky one. So yeah, I see it work both ways. Nomination forms are great. Then you accept your nomination. Yes, so we can nominate committee members in writing prior to a meeting and have that non-owner who is nominated sign the nomination form and that's their way of accepting the nomination. Then they don't have to be present at the general meeting. So it is possible to elect non-owners to committee positions when they're not present at the meeting if they've signed a written nomination. So yep, that is the way to deal with that. Maureen saying, yes, we have a situation where non-owners, non-residents run the committee and hence the OC. And I think it's sounding like Maureen, and that's not good for your community. I bear in mind that in some communities that might work quite well, but not good for your community. Okay, you're Sean McNamara. Okay, good, Sean, thank you. So non-owner committee members do receive notices. Can they then attend and vote at a meeting? Very, very good question that I'll come back to. Cindy's saying, can a proxy holder self-nominate to fill a position on the Strata committee? Not if they're not an owner. So a non-owner must be nominated by an owner if they are going to fill a position on the committee. A proxy holder might be an owner. They might be a proxy holder and then also own a unit in their own right. Then they can self-nominate for the committee. But Cindy, I think your question is going to, if you're a non-owner proxy holder, can you self-nominate to the committee? No. And I love how this question's gone off on a tangent about who can nominate for committee positions. That is a deep one and a bit of a rabbit hole that we do get caught up in sometimes. All right, so Bill and Ben is saying, the best I can do is the South Australian Supreme Court. As the meeting is private, I can understand why someone could be excluded if not an owner or proxy holder or otherwise entitled to be there. It's clear that the nature of the communications which take place at the meetings are of a confidential nature and are private in the sense that they are not public. So it's sounding like that is drawn from a judgment of the South Australian Supreme Court, Alliance, Creighton, Explorer, Proprietary Limited and Cassar Resources. Thank you very much, Bill and Ben, for sharing that. I'm not sure if you were here earlier, Bill and Ben, where I started with, I come at this from the place of who has received the notice of general meeting. And then that notice can essentially be treated, I think, as an invitation to the meeting. If you got the notice, then you should be allowed to turn up. And then once you're there, who is eligible to vote at the meeting? And that is owners, financial owners, and proxy holders. Because I bear in mind that you might be an owner who's received a notice, you can turn up to the meeting, but you might not be financial. So you can sit there at the meeting, but you can't vote. And I wonder if maybe Sean M, this question about, well, non-owner committee members are receiving notices of general meetings. That's in the legislation. They may not hold a proxy. They're a committee member. They're not owners. They turn up to the meeting. I think I'm coming through this talking at you stream of consciousness, coming to the conclusion that I think they can attend the meeting because they've got that notice, they've got that invitation, but they're not eligible to vote unless they're holding a proxy or unless they're a mortgagee. But unless they're holding a proxy, they're not eligible to vote, but I wouldn't be excluding non-owner committee members from general meetings. Maureen's in a situation where relatives just want to push their own agenda, which is not nice. Sean's giving me legislation. Excellent. I'm assuming this is about the tenant. This might be about the tenant representatives, Sean. Written notice must be given to each owner. Yes. Yep. First mortgagee or covenant chargee. Yep. Where there is a priority vote. Yep. So I'm not sure if you were here earlier, Sean. I'm not going to get into what priority votes are, but I think we need to be actually serving our mortgagees with notices of meetings far more often than maybe you are. Our strata managers, generally speaking, are. Leonie's saying, hi, Amanda, can you legally represent a lot owner if you don't live there with a letter of authorization to deal with a strata manager who is bullying the person sending emails at 9 at night? Similar question was asked recently, Leonie, I don't think it was by you, in our members forum. I think it was a question asked by a strata manager who said, Amanda, we get emails from somebody who is not the owner, who's purporting to act on behalf of the owner, and this person sending a high volume of emails, and do we need to respond to them? And my question was, well, what are the details on the strata roll? Who is the point of contact on the strata roll? What is the email address for service of the owner on the strata roll? And is it this person who is communicating with you? Because very often we have property managers who are looking after apartments for investor owners, and those property managers are communicating with the strata manager, and those property managers have their address for service as the contact name, contact email address that's on the strata roll. And I think it's correct that our strata managers should then be communicating with that person who is listed as the contact person on the strata roll. So if this person who is not an owner, who is not a lawyer, let's say, who is not a property manager, who's acting for the owner, and certainly doesn't have their details listed on the strata roll as the email address for service, as the contact name for that lot, then I'd say the strata manager or the committee secretary shouldn't be communicating with them. They should be sending their correspondence to the email address that is on the strata roll for that particular owner, for that particular lot. That's also the path, I suppose, where an owner does want to appoint someone to act on their behalf. That's the path for the owner to follow, to be updating their details for the strata roll, to say, this is my point of contact. It's my mum, or it's my brother, or it's my wife. This is my point of contact, and this is the email address through which I would like all communications to flow. Please update my details on the strata roll. And then I think a strata manager or a secretary should be then communicating with that authorized point of contact. All right, I'm going to come back to some of that legislation that you've got there, Sean. Thank you very much. Yeah, and I'll definitely come back to that question of whether only a tenant rep can attend a general meeting. My understanding was that if we've got more than 50% tenants listed per the strata roll, then tenants can get the notice of meeting and can attend. Might be in a different section, but I'll come back and clarify that one because that's an important one. Bill and Ben saying the chair and the non-owner at the meeting in question agreed that the chair would call the non-owner if the non-owner received a nomination. Okay, so you're sort of going to exclude the non-owner and then bring them back in if they got nominated. Interesting approach there. Okay. This has been our short Ask Amanda Now session. A little bit longer today, because I like this topic, and I'm also very comfortable here in the Minter Ellison offices in Sydney. If you wanted a little tour, there was one earlier on in this session, so you can head over and catch the replay of this one, or head back and catch the replay of this one. Thank you, Stephen, for your very good question, and I love the conversation that that's led us into. Every second Friday, we do this shorter session where I do answer just one question. I think there were about 4 or 5 questions that were then answered in that session. Every other Friday, we do a bit of a longer session where I look at what's happened in our week in Strata, have a look at some media, have a look at some cases and some law, and what it is that is specifically on your minds for the week. So we'll look forward to doing that longer session next Friday. But for now, if you got more questions, those of you who are in my inbox, who are on my Ask Amanda Now spreadsheet that the team keeps up, and you haven't had your question answered, if you are a member of our online community, I want you to head over to our members Q&A forum, pop your question in there, and I will be right on over there to answer it for you in writing. If you're not a member, then you can join us for just $67 and you can get full unlimited access to that Q&A forum. You can be reading my answers to thousands of previous Strata questions. You can be searching that knowledge database and you can be posting your own question there for my attention. So if you don't get your question answered here on Ask Amanda Now, the Your Strata Property online membership community is the place to go. Now I'm going to wrap up. I'm going to head out into my Friday evening here in the Big Smoke, here in town where I am. I'm going to catch up with a friend of mine this evening, which I'm looking forward to. And then I'll be heading home tomorrow, back to my country home, and looking forward to another week in Strata next week. Good to see you all here. Thank you for joining me. Have a great weekend, and I'll catch you all next time. Bye for now.